Hi, I'm Joe Harley with AudioQuest. Today we're going to cover a little bit of AudioQuest history as well as the basic technologies found in AudioQuest cable. A lifelong music lover, Bill Lowe became interested in audio equipment in his teenage years, and he began to sell stereo systems to his fellow classmates at Reed College in Portland, Oregon. After college, Bill headed south to Southern California and eventually opened his own small audio salon in Santa Monica. Here he began noticing that the audio cables currently available were themselves a great source of distortion. Bill started experimenting with various ways to make improvements to these cables. Bill realized that small changes in cable construction and materials could have a huge impact on the perceived sound. By 1980, he formally established the AudioQuest brand and began expanding distribution across the country. 30 years later, AudioQuest is the premier provider of high-performance audio and video cables and related accessories. Founder and chief designer Bill Lowe is still the driving force behind AudioQuest. His passion for product performance and customer service influences every aspect of AudioQuest. Phones are always answered by real people. Products are designed by people with a genuine love for music and film and are built by skilled technicians. Despite growth and success, AudioQuest remains a small company at heart. The first thing Bill learned in his early hi-fi days is that audio and later video reproduction is fundamentally a case of damage control. The signal is at its greatest potential, meaning least damaged at the source. Really, you can never get better than that. Every element in the chain, cables, receiver, power amp, TV, and speakers, add various types of distortion and noise, changing the character of the signal. These little changes all add up like layers of dirty glass. The goal of high-quality components is to have a cleaner pane of glass and to minimize any distortion of the signal. Better cables can never improve the signal, they can only do less harm to the signal. This is why cables can make a difference in any system. Our job is to keep distortion to a minimum. Early on, Bill discovered that good cable design was based on 4 elements, and these remain the cornerstones of AudioQuest design. They are solid core conductors, quality metal, precise geometry, and finally, the best dielectric or insulation materials. To explain why AudioQuest uses solid core conductors, first we have to talk about the most common way to make a conductor. Stranded wire consists of hundreds of little strands of wire that are bundled together and twisted. This creates a few problems. With signal running through hundreds of strands, hundreds of little magnetic fields are created and interact with one another. This alters the signal passing through the cable. The other problem is that signal travels mostly on the outer portion of the conductor. As the strands weave in and out of position down the length of the wire, the signal must jump from strand to strand to keep it positioned on the outside. Solid core has none of these issues and is used in all of our HDMI, interconnect, and most of our speaker wire. When we need a very flexible, cost-effective speaker wire, we sometimes use a design technique that we call semi-solid concentric packing. There are fewer, larger strands, and those strands never move or change position in the wire bundle. The next element in AudioQuest design is the quality of the metal used. Many of you may have heard the term OFC, or oxygen-free copper. Did you know there's really no such thing? Oxygen-free copper still contains some oxygen, but in reduced amounts. Here is a piece of standard oxygen-free copper. Notice how there are visible grains and crystallizations. Inside of here are little pockets of air. These air pockets, grains, and crystals impede and distort the signal passing through. Here's a piece of our basic copper, which we call long grain copper, or LGC. It is the same copper, but more carefully drawn and cast to further reduce the oxygen content and minimize the number of grain boundaries in crystallization. This results in much less distortion, but as I said, this is where we start. Starting with an even higher purity copper, we use a proprietary process to further eliminate surface impurities and imperfections. This results in perfect surface copper. Why is the surface important? The surface purity and smoothness does more to define the sonic character, or hopefully lack of character, than any other part of the conductor, hence the name perfect surface conductor. We also apply this process to an even more refined level of copper and get perfect surface copper plus. Our finest cables use high purity silver with the perfect surface process. Cable geometry, or the physical placement of the conductors in a cable, is the next element AudioQuest considers when designing a cable. Geometry is used primarily to control the magnetic interaction between conductors. This is most important in a speaker cable where larger amounts of current creates larger fields. Each of these conductors creates a magnetic field when signal passes through. The simplest method to reduce these fields from interacting is to space them apart. This is a parallel geometry, and it's a good basic geometry, but it can act a little like an antenna and pick up some additional noise. A better way to reduce interaction is by twisting the conductors. This works best with 4 or more conductors. This is what AudioQuest refers to as a star-quad geometry. This is one of the best cable geometries available, the counter spiral. As you can see, the positive red conductors spiral in one direction, while the negative conductors spiral in the opposite direction, getting as close to a 90-degree angle as possible. The final design element is the dielectric or insulation material that surrounds the conductor. Insulation material is necessary to not only keep the positive and negative conductors from touching, but to also provide some structure to the wire. Insulation material actually absorbs and stores small amounts of signal and then releases it back into the signal path. This alters the signal, creating noise and smearing. The better the dielectric, the less the signal is absorbed, resulting in less distortion. When dielectric performance is of primary importance, such as interconnect wire, we use 3 levels of material: PVC, foam polyethylene, and air tubes. Air tubes surround the conductor in an oversized tube filled with air. Since air is the best dielectric, our best materials incorporate air. When geometry integrity is of primary importance, such as speaker wire, video and high-speed digital cables, and also HDMI, materials such as hard cell foam and solid polyethylene are used. While the 4 elements are the foundation to everything we do, there are a few other key technologies you should know about. One of these is directionality. All audio cables are directional, including digital cables such as HDMI. Connecting the cables in the correct direction is so important that we label the correct direction permanently on the connector of our terminated wire and on the jacket of our bulk wire. Just like conductors, the quality of the metal used in the terminations is important as well. The standard for quality in the cable industry for years has been shiny gold plugs such as this. This is purely cosmetic and does nothing to improve the performance. Layers of nickel are applied between the plug and the gold finish to create the shine. AudioQuest does not compromise performance for eye candy, so we direct plate all of our plugs with either gold or silver as our higher performing option. Another technique we use to improve performance is cold welding. Most cables are terminated using solder, which introduces extra materials and high heat to the conductor right at that all-important connection point. Whenever possible, AudioQuest uses a process called cold welding that attaches the plug to the conductor under high pressure without heat and without solder. So there you have it. That's a lot to cover, so here are the main things to remember. First, AudioQuest is a premier high-performance cable manufacturer founded 30 years ago by Bill Lowe. Second, like a clean, clear pane of glass, a quality component such as AudioQuest cable should interfere with the signal as little as possible. Our mantra is keep distortion to a minimum. And finally, the four elements and additional technologies like cold welding and directionality allow AudioQuest to create cable products with minimum distortion so the audio-video system can perform at its maximum potential. Thanks so much for your time today. Now go sell some AudioQuest cable.